Hi, Fred.
Hello.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. So I want to start.
Talking to the mic.
Thank you. Is it good? Okay. These areas of our work, therapy, theater, youth development, they're obviously connected by virtue of your methodology being the springboard for them, and they're obviously connected by virtue of the fact that they're projects of our community. Why do you think it's important for a development community like this to work in those areas?
Well, first of all, let me thank you for your lovely talks, and thank you all for coming. And see, I think that there is a very broad and very deep and international, worldwide revolution going on. I think we're living in the midst of a profound revolutionary transformation. And a new question emerged in this century. A new and profound question emerged in this century. And here's that interesting question. What emerged in the early years of this century and persists to this moment in what's sometimes called postmodernism, and what is the source of the new revolution of which we are but a tiny part, was this question. How could something both be what it is and not be what it is? Strange new question. And that question, this new question, how could something be both what it is and not what it is, started to attract the attention of those who call themselves the founders of psychology and who had done brilliant work in creating psychology. Those who had moved, first of all, from consciousness as the fundamental unit of psychology, and then moved to behavior, moved to physiological phenomena, came suddenly in the spirit, in the context of this profound overall scientific revolution, a new postmodern scientific revolution, to raise the question, to begin to raise the question of how could something, in particular, how could people both be who they are and not be who they are at the exact same time. And people started to puzzle about this extraordinary question, a new kind of question. A new way of looking. How can we be both who we are and not who we are at the exact same time? And some great thinkers began to speculate on this. Vygotsky, others, so many others. And in the middle of this century, this question started to emerge in psychology and began to shake not only the roots of physics, not only the roots of chemistry, not only the roots of the hard sciences, but the roots of psychology. This great and extraordinary new revolution of this century. And this new revolution began to look harder and harder at that question. It's a very extraordinary question. How could something both be what it is and not be what it is? How could people both be who they are and not be who they are? And suddenly, there was a dawning of a great recognition, in my opinion. Not that we discovered, but that others discovered and that we have simply built upon. That as a matter of fact, people not only can be who they are and not who they are, but we are most fundamentally who we are and not who we are. That as a matter of fact, children, Vygotsky taught us so brilliantly, children are classical examples of what it means to grow and to learn and to evolve and to develop by being related to, not simply as who they are, but as who they are and simultaneously as who they are not, as who they are and who they are to become. And as a matter of fact, Vygotsky and others came to see that if we do not relate to children as who they are and who they are not, who they are to become, they never become what it is that they do become. That the treatment of children as simply who they are, without the recognition that they are themselves process, they are what they are and not what they are, imposes a limitation on human growth. And a new revolution in psychology began to emerge out of those roots in the 30s and 40s, which is now carrying into the 21st century, which is a revolution that recognizes that the fundamental human essence, if you will, is not simply what is inside of us to be discovered. It's not simply some inner phenomena which we have to get deeper and deeper into to discover. But as a matter of fact, the essential human characteristic is our capacity to be who we are and not who we are. And there is a mundane human activity that every little baby goes through and that we pay all kinds of money for, ultimately to see on Broadway and off-Broadway, a fundamental human activity that gives expression to this extraordinary phenomena of being who we are and not who we are, and it's called performing. It's called performing. That we are a performing species. What an extraordinary discovery. We have the capacity to be who we are not. And that as a matter of fact, as a matter of developmental fact, we're now coming to see, we come more and more to understand who we are by being who we're not. That the conception, if you will, it now seems like ancient history. The 60s conception, the 1960s, I'm not talking here of the 1560s, the 1960s conception, that what it means to discover who we are is to get deeper and deeper to the insides of who we are. That notion of getting deeper into ourselves, into our deepest identity, is perhaps fundamentally mistaken. That as a matter of fact, we discover more and more and more of who we are by engaging in the performatory act of being someone other than ourselves. And in being other than ourselves, we continuously discover who we are. In pretending, in performing, we discover who we are. So that performance, coming back to your question now, why are these all tied together? Because there's a new study in the world. A new study, not of just another topic, given the old ways of looking at things, but a new paradigm, a new cultural paradigm, which suggests that what must be understood better and better and better is not simply the inner workings, though that has value, not simply the physiological factors, though that has value, but what we must understand more profoundly and deeply is performance. Performance is the emergent phenomena which is more and more being looked at to better and better understand human social existence. The performatory mode. And it's more than just creating a play. It's the capacity of our species to perform, to create new things, and once again, to be other than who we are. And so we are now reaching into the cultural fields, into the arts, into playwriting, into the study of places where performance has occurred, all the places, because we have a thirst for learning more and more and more about this phenomena called performing, which has been incredibly overlooked, not by everybody, but overlooked to the point that the whole of modern psychology has been created without making, in any profound sense, full use of the recognition of the performatory in human life, human development, human evolution. And Vygotsky stands as a giant, in my opinion, in terms of his understanding in the early years of this century of performance as fundamental. And we are simply, together with other people all over the globe, all over the world, participating, if you will, at the grassroots in this performatory revolution. And performance therapy is just one dimension, though a critical dimension, of the performance revolution, of the social revolution, which is fundamentally a performance revolution. That what we have to learn better, understand better, develop more from and off of, is the transformation, is our capacity to transform ourselves literally in a moment to who we're not, to be who we're not, as a way of further evolving and developing and better understanding exactly who we are. So we're reaching out to all these areas to learn about that, which is why we're so committed, as I understand it, to studying what might seem diverse and differentiated areas of study. There's this great, in my opinion, this great and wonderful and glorious performance revolution. There are endless capacities, creative capacities, for creating new stories. And there are endless stories. And these stories are equally valid. And people can be cured in the sense of being put back on the road of emotional development by a recognition that there is not something inside their head which is wrong, but there is something less than creative in their lives because they've been living in institutions which confine them in their capacity to further create. That change is, in my opinion, extraordinary, but part of a broader and more profound international revolution, from South Africa to Eastern Europe to Southeast Asia to Latin America, even to New York City.